and we are now live. We are now talking on the internet about Ole Miss sports, and would just like to say hello to all of our faithful listeners. If you're hearing my voice, you know that this is Chandler. I am joined by my good friend and pretty much regular podcast co-host at this point, Sam Mooney. Say hello, Sam.
Hello.
So normally, what you would expect to hear on a podcast where Sam and I are talking is you'd hear us to make some jokes about tea, and then get prepared to talk about basketball. But that's not what we're doing tonight. While we are very excited about the upcoming basketball season, and I do have to warn you, speaking of basketball, I may be a little distracted in this because we are 2 hours from the start of NBA free agency, and today has been nuts on Twitter, NBA Twitter. Woj is just dropping Woj bombs left and right, and it's been glorious. Also, the Pelicans are a contender now. I don't know. That's another conversation for later. But no, we're talking Ole Miss football. We're a couple of weeks from the season. We're coming in on media days as we're rounding into July. We are, as I mentioned, we are in the last 2 hours of the month of June right now, as it is 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. So we'll be coming up on media days, and then fall camps will start before you know it. So as you know, here at Running Out the Clock, the elite sports media company that we are, we'd like to run down each team in the SEC and kind of talk about just what's coming up, what to expect, kind of what we expect, and we try as best we can to keep the conversations among fans. But like, we don't know any Tennessee or Arkansas fans, so the last ones that we did, I didn't know what I was talking about. But this one, have a little bit more understanding of what's happening with the Rebels. So we'll move into that. Sam, before we start talking any kind of details or anything about the team, about the season, what are your overall thoughts just of where we are going into this year?
That's a great question. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the thing I'm most curious about is, how do these coordinators adjust? How does Matt Luke function with these coordinators? I think Mike McIntyre and Rich Rod have, some very impressive things on their resumes, and they have some great accomplishments to their, under their belts. And I think, for Rich Rod, maybe some of those are a little bit further in the past than with McIntyre, but clearly both great football minds. And I'm just really interested to see, if with such solid coordinators, seemingly how the program runs under Luke. I think, I don't want to get too much into just focusing on Matt Luke, but over the years, I almost feel like he could kind of be similar to an Orgeron, in the sense of, like, I don't know that he's the greatest X's and O's mind in football, but I feel like with good delegation to efficient coordinators, he could be a solid coach and a great recruiter. And, I think maybe more than ever, he seems to have the best set of coordinators he's had since he's been here. So I think it'll be interesting. I think it's definitely a rebuilding year, but, I think by the end of the season, we'll know if we're trending in the right way or not. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a lot of things there that I've been thinking. You talked about the coordinators, and I don't know that we can really overstate the importance of these two coordinators. They both have, like you mentioned, they have long, successful careers, not just as coordinators, but as head coaches. They have, Rich Rodriguez at one point, everybody's kind of doing it now, but at one point he was the most innovative mind in college football. Mike McIntyre has been an excellent defensive coach for a long time, and I think there's going to be a lot to be said just from the coaching improvement, because when you have a defensive coordinator who doesn't even know how to get his players lined up correctly, and you have an offensive coordinator who's just like, just run deep and we'll throw it. See what happens. To have actual plays, and actual schemes, is going to make a huge difference, I think. And so I was thinking about this, and And really, the only thing that stands between me and being excited about Ole Miss football again is this season.
Yeah. Well said.
And there's some nuance, some explanation to that comment, but this season was kind of always going to be the one that all the hens came home to roost from the NCAA stuff. That we finally are like, all that's clear. There are no more bowl bans. There's no more investigations. There's no more rumors. I mean, like, it's all over. It's all in the past. But you have a roster full of recruiting classes that were devastated by the sanctions, and not so much the sanctions themselves, but just the rumor and the innuendo that went behind them. And so there's a lot of inexperience. There's a lot of guys that maybe otherwise wouldn't have scholarships. And that's not a criticism of those players in any way. I mean, they may turn out to be good players, but it's a tough situation. And so I think if Ole Miss can make it through this season at 5-7 or 6-6, that kind of springboards you the same way that 2012 did in He Who Shall Not Be Named's first season. But I think that under this coaching staff, and as weird as this is to say, with Matt Luke at the helm, because I mean we've talked about this off air. I don't think we've ever done a football podcast together. I mean, I've not been overly thrilled with the hire of Matt Luke, but he's shown me some things, and so I think that he's put together a staff that he's willing to let do its job because he knows they're good at it. And I don't know that, and this is not, I mean, this is not just a Hugh Freeze criticism. I don't think Houston Nutt would have done it either, that Matt Luke doesn't really care about who gets the credit here. He just wants Ole Miss to win. And so he's going to go out and get the best coordinators he can. And he did. I mean, I don't know that anybody has made the coaching upgrade that Ole Miss made this offseason. And I think that as fans, we have to be really patient with this season. The problem is, I don't know if, and this is not Matt Luke's fault, but I don't know if he has the credibility to get that patience. And that's what, because there's a couple of different scenarios for this season that we'll talk about. But if this thing goes worst case scenario and, you lose your two winnable early games, you lose Memphis, lose to Arkansas, and then all of a sudden you get to that Southeastern Louisiana game and there's 15,000 people in the stands, like, that's not really, like, that's not on Luke at all, but it kind of is what it is, So it's this season, and we'll kind of round the corner to talking about this season now. But this season season's going to be weird because it's a year that you could be 4-8 and a better team, but just because of the inexperience and the schedule and all those things. And the other thing too is that every 4-8 or every 5-7 is not the same. You could go 4-8 where you're just not competitive in any of the 8 games, and the 4 just kind of go chalk with the ones you think you can win, or you could win a couple early, take some lumps, play a Texas A&M or an Auburn close, and then get a win against Mississippi State or LSU. Not that I have the talent to beat LSU, but you get a big win like that at the end of the season, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can build on this. I mean, it's kind of like what we all expected the basketball team to do. It's like, look, if you can get to if this team can get to 16 wins, and maybe scare a team on the road end of the year, no expectations for postseason, nothing like that. Well, then all of a sudden, boom, they're in the NCAA tournament. It's like this season is kind of similar to that for me with football, because you can move in the right direction. And I think we are. I mean, if you look at the way that recruiting is going right now, really everything that Matt Luke has done since the February signing period has been unbelievable. It's just really good. So all that said, one of the things that we've done, at least on my previews, I don't know if you're listening to the other running out the clock previews or not. But what I've done is I've looked at the actioninsiders.com over under, make sure that's the name of the right website, because Action Network, excuse me, actionnetwork.com. They've set the over under for wins every college football team this season. And for Ole Miss, they have set the over under at 5, which I think is a pretty good number. So right off the bat, just gut feeling, you taking the over or the under? And you can't push on this. You can't say 5. You got to take the over the under.
Man, that is such a tough question. I truly don't know an Ole Miss schedule I've looked at that had this much potential sort of swing to it, or this many clear swing games. I mean, to me, Memphis, Arkansas, Cal, Missouri, and Vanderbilt could all go either way. And I suppose you could throw the Egg Bowl in there too, just because it's always a swing game too. And probably even Texas A&M. I don't know. It's hard to say on that one. But, I mean, I can't remember the last time I looked at an Ole Miss schedule and saw that many ones that could go either way. That being said, if we split those, which might be thinking optimistic, and I tend to be optimistic about everything except Ole Miss football, I'm going to say Ole Miss gets 6 exactly.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well, because I think, as you mentioned, you kind of ran through the schedule. The way I kind of see it is your wins are going to be Southeast Louisiana and New Mexico State. I can't look at really anything else on the schedule and say – I can look at some other games and say I think they should win, but I can't say there are other definite wins. I think your surefire losses are going to be LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and Texas A&M. Just because I think Auburn and LSU and Alabama are talented everywhere, and then Auburn and Texas A&M I think are going to be good enough on the lines, offensive and defensive lines, so that's going to give us a lot of trouble. But so take that. Then you look at your toss-up games: Memphis, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Cal, Missouri, and Mississippi State. And I know a lot of people are really high on Missouri. It's just a lot of the different podcasts and things I've listened to. People have really talked Missouri up. They may be right. I just got to see it because I know Kelly Bryant, whatever. He took Clemson to the national championship game, whatever the playoffs or whatever. Like he was. I don't think very highly of his quarterbacking abilities. I'll just put it that way. You got those 2 wins, so you need to find 4 out of that middle 6. And look, if you split those 6 games, then you go 5-7, and you're right there. And I don't know, man. I just think that that even though there's a lot of question marks, I think we're more talented than Memphis, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and Cal. That's not to say that we should win all 4 of those, but I think that we finally have the pieces in place to beat those teams, and not necessarily beat those teams comfortably, but to go into them with some degree of confidence, and to go into them and say, hey, we got this. We got a real shot at these games. So the thing that scares me about every single one of those games, though, is that when you look at what we lost from last year, it's basically everyone. Really, the only offensive returner, the 2 offensive returners of note, I'll say maybe 3. You have Elijah Moore at wide receiver, you have Braylon Sanders at wide receiver, and then you have Scotty Phillips at running back. And so the big questions are who plays what position. We're obviously all counting on Corral being the starter, and I think that's going to end up being a really good thing. I think he's going to be really good. This year will be a growing year for him, but you had a second round NFL draft pick at left tackle last year, who before him there was a first round. For the last 6 years we've had NFL tackles. And it's kind of like I don't know who we have now. I don't know who when Little and Tunsil both came in. They were the starter from day one. I don't know that we have that guy. And there's a handful of candidates for it. They have recruited decently well there, but you just haven't seen anybody kind of step up and take take that job, and that's where I think the real weakness of Ole Miss is on the
I
offensive and
agree. I
defensive
think our D
lines.
line has a couple
So
guys that I'm just like Tisdale that I think have a ton of potential, but that are just
mhm.
still young. Well, Tisdale, was he a freshman last year?
So Tisdale had a weird deal where he signed with us and didn't
Mm,
qualify, so ended up I think at Northwest Community College, and then like all that to
okay.
say, I think he was a sophomore last year, and somehow made it work
Okay.
where he got
Gotcha.
to come a year earlier than he was supposed to.
Yeah, he to me is the
But
the
you're
one
right,
I'm
he
most
was
excited to
really
see what he
good.
can do in his second year. The position group that has me the most excited is probably the
Mm-hmm.
running back staple. I would say it's the deepest running back crew I've seen Ole Miss have in a while. I would say. I mean, we've had depth at that position before, but I wouldn't say we've had that much sort of diversity in abilities. Like, in 2014, we had Walton, Mathers, and a couple other guys, but they were all built relatively similar. But this year, you've got Phillips coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Illy, we're all excited to see. And then even, Woolard to me was very impressive. Showed some real flashes of great ability.
Mm-hmm.
So running back is the position that excites me the most. Obviously, our biggest losses are at receivers, and it's going to be really suck to not watch a just like inhuman group of receivers every Saturday. We're coming back down to earth a little bit, but I am excited to see
Mm-hmm.
what guys like Elijah Moore and Braylon Sanders can do.
Right, and the running backs were the first place I
Mm.
wanted to go as like a hey, this is something to be really excited about. Um, and you mentioned a few years ago where we had Jalen Walton and Jeff. We had a whole bunch of guys that if you put all of them on a scale, they wouldn't come close
Yeah,
to weighing
yeah.
like what one of our offensive linemen weigh. But you've got as you mentioned, you've got Scotty Phillips coming back, who had a great season last year. I mean, he was
Yeah.
a little bit underrated, got hurt at the end of the year because he was just the only guy. Um, so he's coming back, uh, and I'll talk about Ely last because I'm just I'm so freaking excited about Jerry and Ely. Like you said, you've got Isaiah Woolard, who had some good moments last year.
Yeah.
Definitely has a spot in the
Did
rotation.
he
You've
get
got
a
Devon
medical redshirt
Penniman,
last
who
year?
will be healthy. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm certain he would have because he didn't play at all. And then you have the less heralded of the
Oh
running backs
yeah.
in the signing class, Snoop Connor from Hattiesburg, who I think is going to be a good running back. But um, Jerry and Ely does two things for you. And he does three things for me. First, he gives me an unbelievable amount of school pride because go Patriots, right? Um, Jerry and Ely went to my high
Big
school, and we
deal.
never put out Division I talent. So, um, uh, but he gives you obviously the talent that he brings. He's an unbelievable. I mean, um, the videos of him at that Under Armour All American game just
Yeah.
destroying people, set a rushing record. I mean, just all kind of stuff. So the talent's undeniable, and he gives Rich Rodriguez, who's a creative offensive mind, gives him some neat things to do as far as getting him in space or helping move the pocket or different things like that. But what he also
Mm.
does is he lets Scotty Phillips be the unquestioned starter, and then he lets everybody else fall into their role. Because
Mm.
Isaiah Woolard is probably not a true backup running back. Like
Yeah.
he's a guy that I think you utilize most if you get him 5 to 7 carries a game. Devon Penniman is also not a bona fide backup running back, but he's probably a guy that when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and inches, you can put him in
Yeah.
and let him bully the line and get those tough yards. And then Snoop Connor's going to be a freshman, just like Ely, but he's going to be a freshman, and so he's going to need some time. So
Yeah.
you're not having to put him in a situation where he's coming in and expecting to get 10 to 15 touches a game. And so it has the immediate talent effect, but it also has the ripple effect on the rest of the stable where, um, you know, Phillips is the number one guy. Ely's the clear number two and the heir apparent, but everybody else can kind of fit in around them in ways that utilize what they do best. Because again, I don't think that Penniman or Woolard or Connor are the kind of guys that you want to give 10 to 15 touches to. But if each one of them is getting 5 to 10 and then letting Ely and Phillips split, then I think you're in really good shape. And I think that's the other thing that Rich Rodriguez is gonna do a great job of is, the offensive line is going to be weak. It's going to be rough, but I think in his offense, it's going to be creative enough. It's going to move the pocket enough. It's going to do some different things, getting guys the ball in space that against some of these less talented teams. And look, there's no scheme that Rich Rodriguez or anybody can implement that's going to do anything to Alabama. It's just not happening. They're not losing they're not losing a game until Clemson beats them by 100 again in the national championship game. And it's probably not going to work against the LSUs and the Auburns, but those kinds of things can really help you out against the Memphises and the Arkansas and the Vanderbilts. And so I think that's going to be huge. It's going to be a great confidence boost for Corral because he's going to have people that he can trust to hand the ball off to. He's going to have people he can trust to dump the ball off to in space or safety valves or things like that. So Ely, Jerry and Ely not getting drafted in baseball was huge for us. Because for certainly the talent on the field, but also, if you remember a couple years ago when Cam Akers committed to Florida State and went there, that was the moment that I knew that no matter what happened, Hugh Freeze was done. When you have that level of a talent who wants to go to Ole Miss, ending up at Florida State because of just all the crap going on, it's Freeze is done. You can't recover from that. And regardless of Akers' production on the field at Florida State, which hasn't, I don't think it's not been great. I don't think that's his fault, or not all his fault. But Ely's that level of recruit that he's from an Ole Miss high school. He's a 5-star running back, and and so what happens is if he comes out and has a good season, rushes for 600-700 yards, couple touchdowns, couple of catches, just whatever the things that we think he can do. Well, then when you sit down with McKinley Jackson out of Wayne County, who's the 5-star defensive tackle, you can say, hey, look, this 5-star, he chose us. He had a great season. You come and, so he becomes the domino that can knock down the other dominoes. And so that's a really exciting thing, I think, for Ole Miss. And then I think just for fans too. I can't remember the last time that we signed a highly sought after running back, much less a guy that we beat out Alabama. Actually, ironically enough, beat out Alabama for Devon Penniman. They made a very, very serious push for him at the end. Alabama and Texas A&M both did. Anyway, Ely's a big deal, and Ely is, I think, good enough to maybe one or two of those games that you looked at and thought, I don't know if we have a chance. Like Jaron Ely may very well be the kind of guy that makes a difference against Arkansas or Cal. Because especially as you get later into the season, and this was Scotty's problem last year, was he just had so many carries, he was worn down and kind of banged up. Well, you can take that load off his shoulders. So not only by the time we get to the Egg Bowl, for example, if they both stay, relatively healthy, you have a healthy and rested Ely and Scotty Phillips, and that makes all the difference in the world. Talking about running backs are exciting. Offensive line is question mark. Tight end. I don't know how much of a loss Dawson Knox is, not because of his talent, but just because Phil Longo did not believe in utilizing the tight end at all. Rich Rodriguez does, and I think Octavius Cooley has had the talent. He had some flashes last year, and I don't really know what else to say. I don't know who any other tight ends even are besides him.
Jason Pellerin is on the tight end depth chart.
That is true. He is, and now,
I think he might even be number 2 on the tight end depth chart. He was 3 last year, so that many almost never played. But I would be. I mean, that dude is so freaking athletic that you got to feel like if he has hands, he could be useful.
Well, and the truth about Pellerin last year was he was the number 3 tight end, but he was being protected in the event that Corral either was in a position to burn his red shirt, or if Tamu went down. I mean, he was really the third string quarterback that they were having to protect at all costs.
Interesting, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've forgotten about Pellerin. I think that's going to be an interesting get. Let's talk about the wide receivers for a second, though, because everybody's looking at this like, well, they lost Metcalf, they lost Brown, they lost Lodge, and we did. And I'm not saying that any of these guys are going to be on their level, but we've continued to recruit wide receivers really, really well. In fact, I'm looking up the roster right now, but we've already mentioned Elijah Moore. We've already mentioned Braylon Sanders, and those are some guys who have some real experience, which is good. Obviously you want that, but you have DeMarcus Gregory, who is a highly sought after prospect who has been hurt, hadn't had much of a chance to really prove himself yet.
Yeah, but, I didn't realize he was hurt. I was wondering why he never took the field, because he was very, very hyped up when he came.
Yeah. He came in with a knee injury, and basically took last year to heal and get well. But you've got Gregory, who's got a lot of potential. You got Miles Battle, 6'4", 200. He played in some games last year. We've mentioned Elijah Moore. Excited about him. You've got Dontario Drummond from Last Chance U coming in. Who we'll see about him. He was highly recruited. We've mentioned Braylon Sanders. Jaden Jackson was a great get for us out of Arkansas. Nevin Wells, the 6 foot, 187-pound redshirt freshman from Jackson Prep, who is there solely to keep the team's GPA high. These guys aren't on the roster yet, but you've got oh gosh, I'm blanking on
Jonathan Mingo.
I'm coming to him last.
Jordan
Dennis Jackson. That's the guy I was thinking of. You've got Dennis Jackson, who he may be able to play this year. And then, as you mentioned, Jonathan Mingo, who not only am I a Jackson Prep alum, but I am a former Brandon Bulldog, and by zip code of where my parents live, still am. And so got to watch Mingo play a lot of high school ball. He's an impressive dude. And, we held off Georgia to keep him. And so when you look at the level that Georgia's recruiting at, if he's a player that Georgia wanted, he probably can contribute for us. And Mingo is definitely that AJ Brown, Laquan Treadwell, that kind of same, 6'2", 205, 210 pound, just strong guy with great hands. So, there's going to be a drop because you don't lose that many great receivers, that many great and experienced receivers, but you've got a lot of weapons to choose from. And that's what I think is so exciting for us this season, is that you've got this quarterback who likes to sling it, and Corral. I mean, good grief. That guy is going to be insane. He is already insane. But he's going to have some targets to work with. He's going to have, like we said, those safety valves to dump it off to. And I'm looking at the roster, and I'm seeing that they have moved Jonathan Hess from linebacker to tight end. So that
they also moved Tylen Knight to receiver, I think.
Yeah, and Tylen Knight's a guy that we haven't talked about. I'm still kind of holding my breath on him because he's so small, and he's actually, according to the roster, not the shortest person on the team. if that honor goes to Kershawn Wells, who was listed at 5'5".
Tyler Knight is 5'6". Good grief. I did not realize
But,
that.
yeah. So all that to say, there are going to be some offensive weapons. It's just that none of them have any experience, and we'll just have to see what happens with all that. But there's some stuff to work with. It's just a complete reset on experience, and so we'll kind of see how that plays out. And then you look also, we look at the quarterback room. I mean, Corral, as the redshirt freshman, is the most experienced one on the roster. So that's kind of weird. But you've got, Kincaid Dent and Grant Tisdale behind him. And they also bring in John Rice Plumlee, who I think is going to contribute at a bunch of different places.
Interesting. You care to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he's going to start off as a quarterback, but I think he's athletic enough to be a corner, to be a safety, to be kind of just wherever he needs to be. I mean, I don't think he ends up at quarterback. I think he'll start there, but and then the other guy that I didn't mention, but this is a big one. Talking about offensive line, even if he's not the kind of guy that just steps onto campus and takes over like some of the guys he's expected to replace. Darius Thomas, the tackle from Arkansas, is a huge get. He kind of comes into that same mold of nobody's the same mold as the Tunsil, but he comes into the same mold, kind of that Greg Little, that tall, athletic kid that I think will eventually be the left tackle. If not this season, then soon after. So, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot on offense. I think that even as we don't know what it is, with an offensive mind that knows how to use them and is not going to just say like, okay, just go run, and if you get open, great, we'll see what happens. Like, I think there's a lot of good stuff that can happen there. I wish that maybe we opened with Southeast Louisiana and New Mexico and not
two of your biggest swing games,
Arkansas.
It really is.
It's just the worst, Yeah. You get a couple of those confidence building games. So over the last few years, offense has not really been the problem for Ole Miss. Now we're going to talk about the defense, and we're already over the 30-minute mark, so that just kind of shows you just kind of where we are with all this. But the defense is going to be a rebuild. But you have an experienced guy who knows what he's doing rebuilding it. And so I think that's going to be big. I just don't know what to think about the talent that we have on defense right now.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually have not looked at our defense enough to really know what we have there to contribute a lot of thoughts. It seems like we've had young players in our secondary the last few years. So do we have veterans in our secondary now?
Well, you've got Montreal Custis coming back, who, he'll be coming off a knee injury, but he was good. Vernon Dasher had some flashes last year. I think they expect Cam White to play, CJ Miller to play. Miles Hartsfield's back. Jalen Julius is back. Jalen Jones is back. Some of these guys are coming off injury, but you've got some players. They're really high on Keidron Smith. Jamar Richardson comes in from JCJC. There's some players in the secondary that I think they can work it out. Really, it comes down to linebackers. And so that's frustrating because that's probably the most consistent thing that Hugh Freeze missed on was linebackers, just didn't sign them. But you've got I don't want to go too far, but you've got a decent core. Isn't that funny? Saying we have a decent core is going too far. Jaquez Jones played well last year. Willie Hibbler's kind of a steady hand. They were excited about Ashanti Seastrong. Looks like they've got him and got some weight on him. Yeah, I mean, Momo Sonogo is going to clearly be the leader on the defense. Eric Jeffries, they really liked him out of Lafayette High School. So, and then probably the two biggest signees on defense, definitely the two biggest signees on defense are Lakia Henry, the junior college running back, and then Sam Williams, the junior college defensive end. And so, in the 3-4
We're making
system
that
that
switch.
Mike McIntyre's going to run, it's going to be it's going to be a new system. But you're going to get guys like Lakia Henry, Sam Williams, T. Tisdale, Ryder Anderson. You're going to get some of these guys chances to really bring some pressure off the end, which we just didn't do well. It seemed like at all. And so, you can let a guy like Benito Jones be a true kind of nose tackle. And you can let a guy like Josiah Coatney be a true nose tackle. Just dudes are just plug in the middle, eating blocks. So, that's the thing about defense is like I just don't have all that much to say other than I keep thinking they can't get worse, but they do. but now it seems like there's been a change, and there's been a change for the better, not just at defensive coordinator, but as far as the system is concerned, as far as the recruiting has been concerned, like they signed a ton of linebackers, and there are some question marks about them, but they've at least gone out and gotten some guys where Freeze would go out and bring in a dude who Freeze would go out and bring in a dude who and I didn't even see, like, I forgot Charles Wiley and Kadir Shepard, an outside linebacker, kind of that defensive end / linebacker role. But Freeze would realize he didn't have any linebackers, so he'd convert a guy like Cedarius Bryant, who I love Cedarius Bryant, but he's like 5'10", 185 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's a corner.
Yeah, I mean, we had Denzel Condici.
Whatever,
playing linebacker.
Yeah. Good Denzel, man, what a guy. So at the very least, you're starting to get pieces in place that actually kind of fit with what you're trying to do. And so, in the defense is going to be something all year that I think is going to be a work in progress. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to know what to expect out of them, but I think that the coaching is going to be good enough.
Yeah,
and there's some actual depth there, and that's where even if there's not a ton of, and look, you're not fixing to go from the worst defense in the conference to the best, but if you can get from 14, I assume we were 14. I don't actually know. It couldn't have been.
Yeah, it wasn't.
If there was a 15, 12, we probably would deserve that too. But if you can jump from 14 to 8, I don't know, like 9, 10, somewhere in that range, that's probably going to be good enough to beat Memphis and Arkansas and Vanderbilt and Cal. So we'll see. But it's going to be something crazy to watch for sure. Just because, with the last couple of years of Freeze and the years with Wesley McGriff, like I was just like, yeah, they're going to be terrible. Like they're not going to be a good defense. And now I'm only like, well, they're probably not going to be a good defense. Progress, I guess,
Yeah. Well, you at least had the hope also that now they'll be more disciplined under a new coordinator.
They'll know what they're doing. So,
the problem that was so frustrating the last couple of years is, you even get to a game like the Arkansas game, 7 games in, and we're still running around like chickens with our heads cut off against a very mediocre offense. So, the hope is, like, even if we're struggling, we're at least doing things the right way.
Which game was it where we ended up having a defensive end covering a wide receiver? I can't remember what game it was.
I'm afraid that may have happened in multiple games somehow.
And the thing is, it's funny. I was thinking about this today. I actually remember. I know for sure that it wasn't the Texas A&M game because I didn't watch that game. I don't have any idea what happened in it. We might have beaten Texas A&M last year. I don't think we did, but we might have. And I did not watch 1 second of it. I don't remember a thing about it.
Something about, I think it might have been the Auburn game where that happened. I don't know why. That one jumps out at me. But yeah, either way. Although, if that defensive end had been Marquise Haynes, he could have kept up with him.
Yeah, the thing is that Marquise Haynes was in the NFL when that happened. So,
yeah, I miss Marquise Haynes far more than I'd like to admit.
I miss a lot of people.
Yeah, he's high on that list.
That pretty much wraps it up, though. I mean, I think that you obviously you want to see what Matt Corral can do as a starter, and you want to see how those young receivers can respond. But really, to me, it feels like all eyes are on the defense, because if the defense can improve, then you've got a real shot at playing in the Birmingham Bowl or wherever. And some years that would be a disappointment, but I think this year that would be a really big momentum thing for us to be in any bowl game, even regardless of the outcome. So.
Your comparison to the 2012 season is actually so apt, because this really does kind of feel like year one for Luke with the new coordinators. I mean, like you said, if we don't win this year, there may not be enough patience to keep him around, unfortunately. But there is, with these new coordinators and everything, it's something about it does feel like 2012, where it's like you've got some athletes, you don't have, you're not going to win a lot, but the schedule sets up where it's like, you could go 4-8. You could also go maybe 7-5. Who knows? I don't know. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of swing games, and I don't know. I just think that's a very, very spot on comparison. It feels a lot like that.
And the thing you have to remember is that if this season is a disaster, there's literally no one in place to fire him. So he is the coach in 2020, no matter what. But what happens beyond there. But I think that's worst case, and I just don't get a worst case kind of feel from this season that I did, because I think largely because of Rodriguez and McIntyre, and just some of the profile pieces and things I've read is that, and we don't have to, not getting into any of the specifics of this, but Rodriguez feels like he was wronged at Arizona for the way he got run off, and he also still wants to prove that he can run his offense in the SEC, and he's very hungry to do that. Because you have to remember that when Alabama hired Nick Saban, they had initially hired Rich Rodriguez, and then a day later he was like, "No, I'm not coming." So they went and got Saban.
That's right.
So he wants to show that he can do this in the SEC, and everything that I've read just makes it sound like he's really driven, really hungry. And I also get the sense that Matt Luke is going to let him do his job. And that's especially for an offensive coordinator over the last few years, that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So true.
Hugh Freeze was the worst. Good grief, that guy. Anyway, well, man, that's pretty much it, I think, for this. And we are just kind of going to keep moving right along on schedule with these football preview episodes. I'm sure Sam and I, before too long, will get back together and talk about some basketball. We will be back in the winter discussing Rebel basketball every week.
I cannot wait.
And the reason that we haven't done a post-signing day recap / look forward is because there are all kinds of rumors that we may not be done for the 2019 class, that there are a couple of guys out there who may be thinking about reclassifying. So we will talk about that, though. We're excited about it, but yeah. So that's kind of what we're looking for. I think we both settled on 6-6, and then hoping to see guys like Matt Corral, Jaron Ely, Jonathan Mingo, some of the new guys really take leadership, and get ready to build a solid foundation for the years to come. So
I want to see Matt Corral challenge more entire defenses to a fight.
Yeah, so that is something that I have thought about so many times, like because look, he's crazy, but you and he's got to get his emotions in check. That's one of the things that they've been talking about. But like you think about anybody who had any questions about whether or not that was going to be a dude that our team looked up to and respected, and he was a leader for. Out the window, he was fixing to get destroyed. Like he was not going to win that fight, but you know what? Didn't care, and like that's one of those things that it's like I don't know that we had a lot of players under Hugh Freeze who would have done stuff like that.
I agree.
At least not at the end. Definitely under Houston Nutt.
Yeah.
Like these guys are like, it's so cliche and cheesy, but like they're going to battle for Coach Luke.
Yeah.
And that's
totally
like,
agree.
I mean, does it work? I don't know. I still don't know, but those are positive signs. Now, I don't want him to do it again.
Yeah.
I want him to calm down. Calm down. Let your defensive lineman or offensive lineman take care of that stuff for you. But to play with that fire. I mean, just that fire and that level of intensity. I mean, it reminds me of Chad Kelly.
I love it.
And that's what I remember. I remember the Rivals guys when Corral signed. They were like, "Well, Ole Miss fans, if you like Chad Kelly, you're going to love Matt Corral." It's like, if you like Chad Kelly, who doesn't like Chad Kelly? That dude was awesome. We love Chad Kelly. So,
who has signed with the Colts?
I think so. Yeah.
Man, I hope he gets some reps and
he's like
up.
Third string, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see. Good steady hand to be under with Andrew Luck. And anyway, this show has long gone off the rails. So thank you for listening. We will be back with more Running Out the Clock soon. And I don't know, Sam may make an appearance or two on the regular football show. I'm certainly going to lobby for that.
Would love to.
Thank you for listening, and we will talk with you again soon. Stay tuned, because Young Sheldon is next.